the head of Instagram, openly admits, we're biased. We're biased. Now, even though we've known that Twitter was biased and YouTube and all of these other platforms are obviously biased, none of them have ever come out and just flat out said we're biased. But the CEO of, or the head of Instagram, which works under Facebook, said in a quote, "We're not neutral." He admitted, Facebook, which owns Instagram, he said, no platform is neutral. We all have values, and those values influence the decisions we make. And then he said, we try and be apolitical, but that's increasingly difficult, particularly in the US, where people are more and more polarized. Now, there's a few things to break down out of the statement. Number one, yes, of course, nobody is without their own biases. We know that, but the fact is that doesn't mean that you have to run your company that way. See, companies have these things called policies, okay? And the fact is that if you say, like Parler, they have a policy, right? Now, if I believe John Matz, the CEO of Parler, is more of a libertarian. That's still a bias. There's still some bias there, of course. But keep in mind that when we're talking about people like him and we're talking about sites, people and sites or companies aren't always the same, okay? In the sense that a company doesn't have to operate on the bias of the person that just simply runs the company. And no company really should do that, by the way. But the big takeaway is the fact that Parler basically says, look, our policy is that we have free speech and you will only get banned if you do something illegal as far as what you're saying. Now, of course, you can get banned for, I don't know, spamming posts, spamming comments, things like that. But the point still is the same, is that you're not going to get banned unless, or it is no longer free speech when you're doing something that is illegal. Because things that are illegal are defined by law, which are the same everywhere in the United States, and can be directly applied to any situation, whether that's online or in person. Easy enough, right? The problem with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram is that they're not operating on this free speech type of idea of saying, well, if it's illegal, then we won't allow it. What they're saying is, if we don't believe there's voter fraud, then you saying it means you get suppressed. You get your page deleted. That's an entirely different idea here. And so what he's saying about this with no platform is neutral. Platforms could be neutral. Just because you have a bias or somebody else has a bias doesn't mean your whole company has to operate that way. If companies just operated based off of the free speech that is in the First Amendment, we wouldn't be having this problem in the first place. And of course, you're going to have the left-wing people say, well, they're a private company. They can do what they want. That is true. They can do what they want. Except none of these companies apply these rules fairly. They don't apply them evenly across the board. And you'd be stupid not to notice that. They refuse to suppress Democrats or anybody in other countries that have incited violence and said far, far, far worse things, by the way. They will not take those pages down, but they'll be happy to get rid of Trump's or to reduce the engagement of any conservative's page. Doesn't matter what it is. And he's saying we try and be apolitical. What in the world does that mean? I mean, you say that no platform is neutral, but we try and be apolitical. No, you don't. You legitimately don't try to do that. There's no evidence that they've tried to do any of this. I mean, this statement, if you were reading it on its face, sounds like a company that's trying their best to do it. They've done it. They've banned a few left-wing people and a few conservative people, but you know, it's just impossible to get everything right. That's not what he's saying. That's not what their track record shows. Plain and simple, they're not trying to be apolitical at all. And then he's saying it's increasingly difficult, and notice how he says, particularly in the U.S. I don't think this guy understands what's going on at all in other countries. There's obviously other political things going on in other countries that are far more divided than they are here. Look at Israel. I mean, there's so many, Iran, there's so many countries where people are pushing back against the government. And there's these massive political divides, oftentimes costing people their lives. And he's just going to ignore that? Just be honest. He should just be honest. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about trying to maintain that free speech standard at all. Like I said, he's a private company. They're a private company. They can do what they want. Twitter's a private company. They can do what they want. But if you're going to do it, apply it fairly. And I know not everything in life is fair. That's a part of the way things are. I completely understand that. But the fact that you wind up basically being a part of the reason why another platform that tried to stand on its own legs wound up not being able to do that, like Parler, banning Gab 2 years ago. These people aren't just out to ban Trump. They're out to ban us. They're out to ban all of the platforms we may or may not join. They're out to ban the competition. They have a monopoly on all of this. And they could care less about you, me, or anyone else out there that is a conservative. You just watched a clip from the William Hall Show. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe.